All right. So, g'day, folk. How are we? And welcome to a Thursday night live around the campfire. Tonight's going to be an interesting night. I'm running all my data from my phone. My computer's down. The power's down. Got no internet. So we're going to see how we go. Hopefully, we get through this. Tonight, we're talking about meditation. Meditation to all of us means something different. So I'd really like to thank Kylie Hutchinson, Death Door, who's with us again, who's one of my go-tos. Joe Hall, all the way from Sweden. Thank you so much, Joe. Joe runs her own business, martial arts business, massage, coaching, and forgive me because my notes are on my computer.
All right.
The name of the company is?
Good to go.
Good to go. Hard to remember, but anyway, AB. I remember AB, and that's a Swedish thing, so we'll talk about that. So brilliant. So thank you, and of course, Omji from down there in Tassie is a Sanskrit fanatic and has done a lot of yoga practice and is a yoga instructor himself. So thank you, guys. Welcome to the panel tonight. Discuss meditation. I am going to start with a little blurb from Wikipedia. What meditation is. Meditation is a practice where individual uses a technique such as mindfulness or focusing the mind on a particular object, thought, or activity to train attention and awareness and achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state. Scholars have found meditation difficult to define as practices vary both between traditions and within them. So let's have a crack at it tonight. Let's define it because we've all got our different opportunities, and I'm actually going to throw it over to you, Joe, if that's okay. We're going to start with you and ask you, just because you're first time on the panel, I want to get to know you as much as I can. What shows one-on-one too was really interesting. Thank you for that, Joe. But what does meditation mean to you?
It means many, many different things. And as a martial artist, we've done the meditation training. It sort of goes hand in hand with your practice and learning the internal and the external. As a human being and as a coach and as somebody who deals in care industry looking after people, meditation is something that helps me be grounded and check in and take time for myself. And I'm going to go and do the mindfulness thing. And it's in a bigger perspective, it's just, I feel like it's this thing that we're always striving to chase the unicorn of having this massive revelation through meditation. It's this big mystical thing that people tell you should be doing. But in actual fact, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to jump in on this conversation when I saw your post the other week was I've been doing a lot of work this summer. In Sweden, we've just finished summer. And I've been on summer break and I've been doing a lot of work on my own meditation space. And it's just suddenly hit me that for me in my current space and in my workspace, what meditation is and the tool that I will be using for the next few years is the off switch for my stress and anxiety. There you go.
Brilliant. Thank you. And how do you meditate?
If I'm teaching meditation, particularly martial arts classes with the kids, we just do basic breathing meditation and get them to feel, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and get them to check in with their bodies and feeling the breath coming in and out, counting for 10, 15, 20 breaths if they can cope with that long. With the adults, same kind of thing. We do, depends on what we're working on. We'll do guided meditation. We'll do a focus meditation. Every so often I'll sit down and go, we're going to spend the next 6 weeks working on this kind of thing with our meditation, being a sound, a word, a mudra, something like that. Just again, to help with focus. For myself, when I'm doing my own work, I actually do a lot of, I listen to guided meditations because I find it personally difficult to just go and sit in my dojo room and have a meditate. It's not something I can do every day. But if I can get into the habit of listening to a set of guided meditations, that's where I'm at. And in my own personal work, I'd like to do programs. So as I was saying, over this summer, I really got in. I don't know if you've done the work with Joe Dispenza. He does some meditation work, and he's written some books on life stuff. And I was getting in and doing some of his meditations over summer. I found them to be really beneficial to help me get into the space of letting everything else just drop away and be myself and not myself at the same time. And it was, yeah. So it's different, and I use as many different modalities as I can in order to work with the different tools that we can get from meditation, because it's not it's not just one thing, it's many different things. So we have to come at it from the many different angles and learn to use them as tools. It's like anything, learn to use it as a tool to get the result that you're looking for. For me, anyway. Cast it back to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. No, thank you. Look, and that's great, because everybody's got their own style of meditation. So, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Kylie.
Follow on what Joe said. Everyone does have their own style, and you just find what works for you. And some people, it may be more mindfulness, and it may, or for some it may be, just the sound or just silence. And it depends what you're trying to do. I found when I first learned, I was trying to meditate to go to sleep, just to relax at the end of the day, which was great because it worked. But then when I tried to do it more mindfulness stuff, I would really relax and just want to go for a nap. And my body was like, okay, this is sleep time. Like, no, just 10 minutes. Yeah, calm. So yeah, but it just depends on what you want to do, and what you want to achieve from it. If you're just starting out, 5 minutes, just focus on yourself, your breath, tune into your body. And some of the guided ones are amazing for that. They can just, the body scan. I like that one, where you start at your toes. The one I learned actually was you start at your toes and you just imagine that there's like an injection in your toe and it relaxes you, and you just feel it going up and up and up, and just relax you for 5 minutes. Yeah, just slowly relax, which is a really good one. But it depends on what you want to do. And I do lots of different ones. So I try and do, 10-minute ones and half-hour ones, hour ones if I can. Yeah. I wiggle. So it's hard to move around.
Well, in your meditations, what are you focusing on?
For me now, it's relaxing and really trying to focus on just calming, myself down, and especially the last, this year has been crazy. And I used to do it just to sort of refocus on what I wanted. So just half an hour, focus on something. And I also do Reiki. So, that helped too. I would focus on sending Reiki through meditation, sending it to whoever needed it, or myself if I needed it. This year, with everything that I've been through with the bushfires and then COVID, for me, it's been about relaxing and trying to just make sure that I'm supporting myself as best I can for it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Because it has been an interesting year. So meditation for a lot of people is becoming a big practice. So
yeah.
Omji.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Because I'm a yoga teacher and I'm into Sanskrit and I'm a bit scientific, I like to look at meditation a little bit differently. But the definition of meditation for me would be to concentrate on one thing at the exclusion of all others. And then it all depends on the goal of the meditation, but like you can meditate like normally, like if I've got 6 kids for the weekend, then I've always liked to do the washing up, because even in the midst of chaos, I can still meditate in the sink. The toilet's a meditation place as well, because not only does it bring the energy to the base of your body where the Kundalini sits, but it also It's a very common experience that you're thinking of one thing at the exclusion of all others while you're on the toilet. Yeah. So, and probably one of the most relaxed type of people on the planet would be surfers, because every wave that they catch, they're feeling the wave and their whole focus is on the wave at the exclusion of everything else. Yeah. So, and there's a saying that says the blacksmith that doesn't see the king go past is meditating. So if he's over his anvil smashing the piping hot horseshoe, then that's a meditation in itself, And so what are we actually doing when we meditate? Like there's a couple of goals from what the company have said. That basically there's one desire for the autonomic nervous system to be brought into the parasympathetic phase rather than the sympathetic phase of the nervous system, to do with adrenalized states, which we're normally in, which is to do with fight or flight. And there's a couple of other things, freeze and fawn and all that sort of shit that's been added to the fight and flight. Yeah. But let's say ultimately the goal is to bring our nervous system into a parasympathetic phase, which creates a homeostatic, peaceful experience physiologically. There's also the goal of the still mind and breath awareness. But meditation can be used for like other things. Like in the state of ecstatic orgasm, it's a good opportunity to manifest things when you're in the state of unified experience of bliss. That's a pretty quick way to manifest things, but for me, I like, because I'm a Sanskrit fanatic, thank you for that introduction, I love you, but the word mantra, right? What do I meditate for? I don't even meditate that much, but the reason that I do mantra is because in the word itself, it explains what it does. Yeah. And mantra, the first word is manas, which means the working mind, and then tra is transcend, or technique to transcend the working mind. So mantras are physiologically designed to transcend what is known as the manas in the Samkhya philosophy, but according to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, it's to transcend the mana-maya kosha, which is the rational mind. And then there's a state of mind beyond the rational mind, which is called the vijnana-maya kosha, which is the part of the mind that can perceive beyond time and space. So the goal of yoga could be to still the mind enough to perceive through the experience of the intuitive mind. And then that goes into stages of yoga. But there you go. That's a little bit of an introduction to do with what yoga is.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, that's awesome. Everyone's got their own version of it, and basically, from what I'm understanding, everyone's using it for the same thing: to calm the mind and to be peaceful within themselves. So, I'm going to ask you, Omji, when did you first come across it, and how did you implement it to your life?
When did I first come across meditation?
Yes.
Oh, all depends what sort of meditation you talk about,
Okay.
Realistically, when I was in year 11 and 12, at the age of 16 and 17, I learned to study because our education system is based on memory recollection.
Yep.
So I learned to retain information for a 3-hour period so I could sit in the exam and belt out all this information and all these answers related to the subject I was studying. So being able to concentrate for 3 hours on one subject alone is a form of meditation.
Yep.
if you're riding your BMX bike and you're in a race, from the time that starting button goes and the gate goes down to the time you cross the finish line, if you're unlike me, it could be a meditation. But for me, I was probably not that focused, So when do you first come across it? Even the irony of the first 7 years of your life are done in a meditative state. Technically, when was I first exposed to the science of yoga and the techniques to do with that? Then in 2001, I learned some techniques, and I learned some of this information to do with what I'm into, where they talk in the yogic techniques. They've got millions of, not millions, but like several meditation techniques, right? I've written a few down. One is Kyasterium, which means still body. So you can do a meditation on your body. There's one called Antarmona, which is to do with thoughts and watching, or actually inner silence. So you can actually train your mind to observe through this aspect of you that it knows you're in this interaction, but not talking. Like I know there's a big Omji watching the little Omji talk. So that big Omji can sit back and watch the little Omji's thoughts. So that's Antarmona, where you can watch your thoughts come and then watch them go. Or you can actually create spontaneous thoughts, or you can follow your thoughts as they happen and then go right down into where they're going, So that's a technique too, inner silence. There's one Tratak, which is to do with flame gazing. So you watch a flame for a period of time and then let it go. For like 3 minutes at a time. Focus on a flame, close your eyes, and then you get an image inside. So those sort of techniques I was exposed to in 2001. Did I implement them? During the course I did. I'm not a big meditator myself, though. I don't, you've seen me. Maybe my main meditation would be when I'm motivated to get up in the morning and go to my temple, and then I chant mantras and I do 3 rounds of the mala.
Yeah. Can you explain that? Because that's something that we met for a group, and I've been lucky enough to witness a few of your mantras and enjoy it first thing in the morning. And could you share those experiences with us?
I used to sing some mantras, and I'm not the best. I'm not the most emotional person, and I'm not the most musical, but I used to sing some mantras that tickled my fancy in the words of my mother. But now I've changed to chanting. And I think that there's a trilogy in life, and whether it's like God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, where there's the Almighty, the human, and the link between the two. I chant 3 mantras, and the mala itself in the Indian yogic technique has 108 beads. So I chant 3 rounds of 108 mantras, and one is dedicated to the Creator, God. One is dedicated to the created, which is Shakti, or everything in experience. And then I chant another mantra to do with the link between the human experience and God, which I perceive as Kundalini. So, and I'm lucky enough to live on a property in down under, Tasmania, on 5 acres that has a location or a geographical aspect that faces the northeast. So I can sit in my temple and watch the sunrise from the summer equinox right through to the winter solstice or whatever they are. And I'm very fortunate to be able to sit there and get that in the view from my temple. So that's what I do sometimes. And because I'm passionate about Sanskrit, then I chant it in Sanskrit.
Thank you for that. I highly recommend everybody for the experience to actually share that with Omji, because it's a pretty cool experience. Like, as much as you say you're not musical, it definitely hits your heart because it's coming from yours. So it's a really beautiful experience. So thank you for that. And
Thanks,
if it's
bro.
all right with you, I'm just gonna. That's all. I'm gonna ask the girls the same thing, because I want to get back to your temple a bit later. So Joe, when did you first come across meditation, and how did you implement it?
Yeah, the implementing question's a good one. I'm going to answer that first. I think, like everybody, we struggle with it because we live this life that is constantly pulling you away from yourself. And I've got 3 kids, I've got a business to run, I've got a wife, I've got friends. None of those things have space for my meditation. And it kind of gets put down the list in priorities. But I take time when I can, and I implement it by being the teacher. I am very much a person who learns by teaching, and it forces me to A, do the research, and B, do the practice, which is awesome because I want to be a good teacher. I want my students to learn, and I want to learn at the same time as well. So I put myself in situations where I have to make it a priority. So I schedule it in with my clients. And then, one of the really cool things about living here in Sweden is that we have this summer break. I've been here for 11 years now, and I think it's taken me 11 years to finally really get into the summer break, and everything just shuts down, and I get to close my business for 8 weeks between summer solstice and mid-August. And as a business owner, for the financial side of things, it's stressful and freaky. But as a human being, it's awesome, because at this time of the year when it's hot and the sun is up and you're actually really physically active, I get to put my business aside and actually schedule in some time for myself. And so I set myself little projects like I did this year, which is to do some research and do some meditation programs. And, the sun's up all freaking night, so I get up at 4 a.m. and go for a walk in the forest and do my morning meditation for 8 weeks. And, I find that sort of brings me back up here, and I get to sort of roll down the hill as winter passes, and then when spring comes again, you're sort of waking up again, and then you sort of start to think, okay, what am I going to do this summer in my personal practice? So, it kind of rolls with the seasons here, which is interesting and fun. And it's not something coming from Sydney. It's not something you get in Sydney. Like, it kind of gets cold and it kind of gets warm, but there's these real distinctions here. And I've found that I can put my practice in with nature, even, it gets that real ebb and flow. But to get back to when did I get into it, or when did I get introduced to it? I would say, as starting martial arts was, it's always been there. It's always, I think, growing up in the modern world, I mean, child of the 70s, Kung Fu on TV and blah, blah, blah. It's always there. You want to do it. And being interested in martial arts as a kid is like, you have to meditate. But I didn't start practice till I started practicing martial arts more seriously, which is in my early 20s. So yeah.
So meditation plays a big part in any martial art.
Yes and no. It depends on your instructor.
Okay.
I've had one instructor who I had a meditation question for him, and he went, I know nothing about it. And I'm like, right, well, you go into that category over there of instructors. And then I had another instructor who was an amazing mentor, but he had some programmed responses. And then I'll never forget this one day. I turned around him and went, I don't want one of your bullshit answers. I want a real one, thanks. And because I had a genuine question, right? And he started talking, and I just went, no, I don't want your bullshit answer. I want a genuine answer from you, thanks. And I get also, I wasn't a child, or I wasn't a teenager, an annoying teacher, or somebody in their early 20s just trying to get this, mystical thing. I was an adult, genuinely having genuine questions and struggling with something in my own meditation. So yeah, anyway, to get back to the point, which is it depends on your instructor. And some people do make it out to be this big mystical thing, and they fail to help people, in my mind anyway, fail to help people to understand that it just needs to become a tool like everything else that we're doing in life. Can we stop making it so complicated? Can we just go, yeah, it's not going to give you magical powers, like you're kind of thing. It's not going to do, it doesn't do that. What it does is teach you about yourself a bit more. So let's make it a tool that everybody uses. But, like anything, the martial arts has different instructors who do different things.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Well, thank you for that. Now, Kylie, for you, when did you start and what's your practice?
I think I first heard about, I'm trying to remember when I did while everyone else was asking, I was trying to think, but I can remember getting introduced to it at school. So when I went through school and did my HSC, they actually were putting a lot of pressure on kids then, and they'd had some kids suicide because in the years before I got there. And so they started to sort of try and say, we need to teach these kids to calm down. Not we need to take the pressure off them about HSC. We need to teach these kids. So they're, not that. No, we'll teach them to meditate so they can deal with the pressures. So we had a couple of, I went to a Catholic school and we had retreats, and they did some meditation things where they laid us all down and they read this thing. And we had this teacher with this, and I'll never forget it, with one of those really calming voices. And she read what I now know, which I had no idea at the time, but I now know it to be a guided meditation. And I was like, straight out to sleep, it's this beautiful, lovely, calming voice. And she was talking about, I don't know, going through the sky on a cloud or something. And I was like, no, I'm out. I just have no idea. So I thought, that's what you do. That's meditation. Like, it obviously relaxes you and puts you to sleep. And then, in my 20s, working and all that, I thought, this is what you do. And then when I looked into a little bit more, and I don't know that I ever had a meditation teacher. I think I just had sort of spiritual channels, had some people that all talked about it. And I had this perception that it was this thing that you did to relax, and which it is, but I had this perception that it was like this thing that you had to achieve. And I've only recently, I think, worked out the last few years, someone actually said, it's not like you don't achieve this magical state. And like Joe said, like you don't get your magical powers. You don't like level up and go, whoo, now I can shoot, whatever sparks from my hands. Amazing. You don't get that. But everyone's like, how do you know you're doing it right? How do you know? Like, what are you doing? And someone explained to me that it was when you realize when you're supposed to be concentrating on the one thing and ignoring everything else, like Omji said, one thing, whether it's doing the dishes or surfing or, focusing on your body or your breath, and you realize that your mind just went somewhere else. And next thing you're like, you know what, when I finish this, I've really got to book the car in for a service. Yeah. And then you go, oh, no, breathing. And this is what I'm supposed to do. Guess what? You just meditated. That was it. You noticed that your thought went there. You noticed that your monkey mind kicked in and you went somewhere where you shouldn't have. And that's it. And I was like, that's it. That's all I had to do. Like, oh, that's so much easier, So much. No, it's not this mystical thing. It's just noticing that you're gone somewhere in your head that you shouldn't have. You need to come back to what you were initially focusing on. And so techniques for that can be wide and varied. Like I've got my smoke thing tonight, which I like. I like the smell of incense burning, and I watch the smoke, how it comes out. That was one of the first things I did. That started candle. So that's good. Staring like I didn't know that was a yoga thing where you stare at a flame. I've told people that for years. If they can't meditate and they want to do it, I go stare at a candle, because it's like the Campfire Project, like Alan said, sitting around a fire when people are around it. And there was actually a study done about that. It was something about the different lighting. Fluoro lights are bad for you, and the campfire light is that dimmer light. And a dimmer light with a one point of focus helps people drop down into the darker things with the light sort of thing, whereas the fluoro lights light up everything.
Yep.
So there's different techniques. There's apps you can get with guided meditation. There's things. I have a Tibetan singing bowl, which is gorgeous now, but I think it's an evolving practice. I think you find what works for you at this time. And like Joe said, you ask someone, I had this legitimate question. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to ask you anymore. You don't have the answer. So you go and find someone that does. Find something else. Find a technique that works. And the thing with this is there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works. And the ultimate goal is to just bring yourself back to you and try and calm and relax. For me.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
No, it's perfect. Well, I meditate daily. For 20 minutes as soon as I get up. I have 2 guided meditations I do, and I run. Running is my form of meditation because
running can be, any of that
I understand.
Do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's just a place where I can clear my head so I can let the thoughts run by. And it's funny because I'm usually talking about doing the dishes. One of the things that I love, I was actually disappointed when my wife bought a dishwasher because I'm like, I need to wash the dishes. That's my thing. I really enjoy it because I can just concentrate on doing the dishes. And I think in today's society with so much going on and people with so much, especially at the moment, I'm in Melbourne, there's opportunities everywhere at the minute. And, there's some things starting up now that are just not good. And I think if you can find a place to still the mind for a bit and just sit with things, because the pressure's rising, and it's, do the dishes by hand. So for somebody getting out and, like when I first started meditation, it was actually I was actually camping. They did it at a yoga class, and it was Qigong mixed in with yoga, and it was phenomenal. I absolutely adored it. And I'm going to share, this is pretty embarrassing, but we've gone into Shavasana, lying down, and I farted in the class, first yoga class.
Love it.
So I just, so I'm officially known every year down at White River as the guy that farted in his first yoga class, which was good, but I was relaxed. But here's the thing, like, it's not something that I knew much about then, but I'm learning the importance of it now and the importance of it for me. And I use it now to not necessarily manifest things, but to visualize how I want things. And I find that an amazing part of meditation. And I was wondering whether or not anybody uses it for that. Joe, you're nodding, so that means you've got something on that.
Yeah. Well, it's actually so apropos. The work that I've been doing these last 3 months, which is to do this morning and evening meditation, and the premise of it is to let go of what you were, to give space to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And just follow through it's the same recording every day. And for me, what the work does is it's like 1, 2, 3, go, right? Ready, set, go. And when I sit down and listen to the same recorded meditation, my body gets the cues, the triggers. Right, here we go. Letting the day fall away, letting the past fall away, letting the decisions that I made today fall away, so that I can create the space for where I can focus on what I want to have happen tomorrow. And then when I wake up in the morning,
mm-hmm.
we go, okay, we've got a new day. Let the past fall away. Let my new day come in. This is where last night we decided this is who I want to be. This is what I'm deciding what I want to be today. This is what I'm deciding what I want to do today. And then so yeah, it's my current practice. in creating a new me as opposed to recreating the old me, if that makes sense. Yeah. You know, there's some changes that I've wanted to make in my life, and there's, you know, as a company owner, I've got to do the personal work to change my bad habits so that the company can grow as well. So getting down and doing that deep inner personal work of working out the habits that I need to change, you know, recognizing them, understanding them, shining light on them, and then pulling them apart so I can let them go. And I find this meditation is really helping me do that, to the personal work.
So you're seeing the results from that?
I am seeing the results from that. And the results, the hard facts results from that are, in a time when the world is in crisis, and for all intents and purposes, people who are running businesses like mine are closing down left, right, and center. My business and my livelihood is doing okay. And so you know, the everyday evidence of that is I'm doing okay, instead of having to close my business.
Yeah, awesome.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Omji, no, well, absolutely it is. Like, anything to keep yourself going, like, especially at the moment. There's hard times all around the world, and you know, you're in Sweden. So yeah. So Omji, you've lightened up. So there's something in there that you'd like to share, I'm sure.
Lightened up? What?
No, the comment, sorry. When there with Joe, you got to be excited. And we're all, so I'm sure there's some gold to come from you right now.
I did it because ultimately I think that the goal is to become more aware and more conscious, rather than have our lives dominated subconsciously in repetitive patterns. Yeah, and that's what Joe was saying, and subconscious neuroses are my passion. I love it, watching people not knowing what they're doing and repeating it. So I think that when they said that it's becoming breaking old patterns, like the only part I didn't feel comfortable was when she judged herself as bad, or they were unhealthy or something. Like, I like to say healthy or unhealthy, rather than but the unconscious patterns I love. And like, if you talk really, like, physiologically, I'm sitting here wondering, like, is it basically, because martial arts is the same system that it works on as yoga. It's the etheric body, called the linga sharira in Sanskrit, and what do you call it, bioplasm in the energetic medicine exchange. So there's a subtle body that's housed with all our patterns that are expressing themselves through our physiology. So the question I have is left side of brains, like, externalized rational awareness, the right side of the brain, like, let's just simplify things. So the right side of the brain's creative and intuitive and in flow and stuff. The yoga that I learned under, they said that the brain hemispheres dominate one side or the other. And whether it's externalized awareness or internalized awareness, then one of the most, it's supposed to change every hour and a half. It changes for like 20 seconds. It's balanced, the brain hemispheres, and then it flips into the other side. I think it's maybe 2 hours. It's not hour and a half. Every 120 minutes, your brain goes from one side to the other, but physiologically it's balanced at one period for about 1 or 2 minutes. So that's when you're in between. That's when you can tune in to the space between your thoughts. There's a yoga technique that's designed for that, called Nadi Shodhan, which is also called alternate nostril breathing. You know, if I was to recommend one meditation technique for anyone, it'd be Nadi Shodhana, because it will lengthen that period of 1 to 2 minutes to longer, so you can be in that intuitive balanced state and in a parasympathetic nervous system dominance. Yeah, but you breathe in one nostril, breathe out the other nostril, breathe in the other nostril and out the first nostril, you know. So it's a cycle: in, out, in the left, out the right, in the right, out the left. And that'll balance your hemispheres of your brain so you can prolong the state of meditation physiologically. Because I am a physiologist deep down, that's the perspective that I come from, you know. And then I relate the whole thing to Patanjali, because that's what my business is dedicated to, because he's the source of the Yoga Sutras. But he talks about the 8 stages of yoga, and the first three stages are social constraints, so you can function in the community; individual constraints, so you can function as a functional human being. They're called yamas and niyamas. And then there's things called asana, which is what you said, Aussie style. How do you say it? Shavasana. No, Shavasana. Yeah. So that's a posture. So the postures come after you can function as a balanced human being, and then you can function in society in a balanced way. Then you start the postures, which is asana. Then the next stage is pratyahara, which means withdrawal of the mind from the senses. And it sounds like that's what most people struggle with, because they're bombarded by the sensorial input most of their day. So to bring your mind into an experience where you're not governed by the sensorial input, then that's called pratyahara. That's the 5th stage of yoga. Then there's another stage called pranayama, which we can skip over in regards to the meditation, but that's expansion of that energetic system we were talking about. But that's a story for another day. We'll go into the meditative states of, according to Patanjali, the 6th, 7th, 8th stages of yoga are broken concentration, which is called dharana. And then you've got unbroken concentration, which is extended, which is dhyana, right? So it's like the white line on the middle of the highway when it's broken. Like Kylie was saying, you meditate on something, your breath, and then you think about your car service. And that's the gap between the lines on the highway. And then you bring it back to the breath awareness. You concentrate on your breath for a little bit more. And then there's another gap where you think about the shopping, bring it back, right? And then the next, over a period of time, maybe you'll be lucky enough to have like an extended period at the kitchen sink where you can extend that line for a longer period. So then you have a more focused, extended concentration on one object at the exclusion of all others, which is, yeah. And then the last stage is samadhi. But we're talking high-end meditation and the goal of human existence according to yoga, which is, but it doesn't matter. You can just say absorption, right? If you go and concentrate on a flower in your garden for long enough, eventually your consciousness will be absorbed into the flower's consciousness. All right? You and the flower will become one. Doesn't matter. All right? If you do it on other things, you get absorbed if it's long enough, right? If the stillness is there, you get absorbed. So in yoga, when we were talking about the candle flame, then you can use something to do with your form of divinity, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It can be a rose, it can be a cross, it can be a picture of Guru Nanak for all that matters. Osho and anyone, it could be anyone. It could be your mum or dad. If that's your form of divine incarnation, then that can be the object that you focus on. And then you develop focus on it for dharana, broken periods of time, minute at a time, and then dhyana, extend it to maybe an hour at a time. And then eventually, but according to yoga, you want to replace that form of divinity sometime in there with an universal form of nothing, which is divine. So that's the challenge of how do you concentrate on something that's everywhere all at once, but nowhere to be found for an extended period of time. So you can be absorbed into it, so you can achieve samadhi.
You made it sound so simple.
I love you dearly, Omji. You know that, but your knowledge and understanding of this puts me into a meditative state because I go in and I'm listening and I'm trying to understand, and then I'll flick out and come back because there's a lot to it, and the depth at which you've studied and understand it is something that I admire greatly. You know, so
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So I highly advise everybody just to try out Omji's mantra because it's what
I've got a meditation on YouTube, bro. You can go to my YouTube channel, type in Sheshnaag Yoga Nidra.
Get it out there. Tell us. Hey, all promotion,
I can plug it, can't I? Because this isn't a personal call.
You can plug it tonight.
It's
Kylie.
interesting.
Nidra, man. I'll put it in there. Sorry, Kylie.
No, it's interesting what you said about focusing on like a flower until your consciousness steps into it. So I've got a friend who works especially with kids, and I try and teach my kids. It's about going into nature and having your sit spot. She calls it your sit spot, where you find this one spot in nature that you sit all the time, and you sit there until you become more conscious of the little things. So you see the little bugs, you see the lizard, the animals that are flighty like birds and things that aren't likely to approach you will start to approach you. Frogs, where she does it, there's she's a pond and there's frogs, and the frogs will start to come up. And she teaches her kids to do it so that you sit still long enough that they become used to your presence and they not scared of you, you're not a threat to them, so you'll notice these things happening. But that obviously is a yogic principle. All this stuff on there.
You get attuned to it. You know, the energy as an energetic parcel, you attune to wherever you are. So there's a reason why you want to be emotionally regulating your own experience. Yeah. But it's all it could be yogic. I think it is. I think yoga is the oldest philosophy on the planet. But if it's not yogic, it's still physiological.
It is, and it's still about calming yourself enough so that even the energy that you're giving out, like because I do Reiki, and I know a lot of people, women who do Reiki, and say, you've just got to calm your energy and tune into the energy vibration of this. All of that is just being part of where you're at and being not a threat to the animals that are there or nature around you, or being aware of it.
It's hard though.
It's really hard.
To not impose yourself, is it?
Yeah. My dad used to call it the bush eyes. Have your bush eyes on when you go out in the bush, so you'll see the lizards and you'll see, put your bush eyes on. But it was about being calm enough to notice it, but not be, not disturb it. Just be aware of, I think he was trying to teach me not to step on snakes, maybe. But but lizards, the different kind of birds and how they act, the different calls. Yeah, it comes in handy.
That in itself is a meditation, isn't it? Just sitting there focusing on the bird to actually understand, identifying the call so that you can actually tune into that one bird. And that's a form of meditation, which is, it's funny because Oscar at school at the moment, he's actually the one that brought meditation into my life. They taught it in grade prep and brought in sushi. Anyway, it's an app, and we used to listen to it at night, and it was just a meditation music, and it worked every time. I'd wake up at midnight and still lying next to him. But But it seems to be something that's really important in our life, and especially these days, with everything being so busy and under so much pressure. Meditation's important to slow down because we're taking in so much information at the moment, and I think I won't say the actual quote, but it was more than 50 times a minute is what kids are having to take new information in. Something ridiculous compared to what we had to take it in my day, probably maybe Omji's day, not Joe and Kylie's. But it's that information coming. We'll take it. Just take it. But
we do unplug holidays to unplug, to just get away from it. Yeah, all electronics off. Yeah.
I love the way they do it in Sweden. Shut down for 8 weeks.
Yes.
Go and find you.
Yeah.
The really and this is part of the lifestyle that we choose, but a lot of people do this, and particularly this year because nobody's going overseas, is you spend a lot of time in the forest. It's blueberry season, so you spend time picking wild blueberries in the forest. It's amazing. Do it. It's amazing. My life here is so much better than it was. So seriously, wild blueberries, everywhere. You'd never have to buy another blueberry in your life. You pick a year's worth and put them in the freezer. Yeah. And so we're foraging. We're helping ourselves feed ourselves in a time of crisis. We're out there. You can pick mushrooms in the forest and go home and eat them. They're not everything is poisonous. There's no snakes in the forest to bite you or kill you. There's no deadly spiders either. It's amazing. But I can't even tell you how hard it is, having grown up in Australia, to just tramp through the forest without being terrified of being bit by a snake. But anyway, coming back to the movement in the forest and the meditation, I think one of the things that I kind of wanted to add was, for me, the big message, it's important to remind folks that meditation doesn't have to be sitting still.
Yeah.
We can do it moving, doing the dishes, riding your bike, walking in the forest, just so long as you're giving yourself going into the space with the intention of letting the day fall away, so that you can be completely present in wherever it is that you are. And as a physical person, I can't sit still for 5 seconds, so walking meditations are perfect for me. And download an app, put the app in your ears, and off you go.
Is that as simple as it is? Just being completely present in what you're doing.
And it can be hobbies. It's like working on your car, or for me, I did pubs for a lot of years, and I did flair in pubs, like juggle bottles and glasses and stuff. Yeah. So when isolation hit, I was like, what am I going to do? I need to do something. And I thought, I'm going to take up fire twirling. And so it's not going terribly well, and I'm not going to but I am learning some really cool stuff.
Waiting for the YouTube tutorial, Kylie.
Yeah, no, I found this. Actually, I was telling a friend I was sort of stalled on it and I was a bit lost, and he sent me a link to someone who'd done some martial arts, and she did martial arts fighting techniques with batons and lightsabers, for show. Yes. But it was the same sort of technique, and I was like, oh my God. So just gone leaps about it. But I'm not going to do anything, because I hit myself in the head with it the other day doing it. I'm totally going to set myself on fire here. So, but I'm finding that a form of meditation, that concentrating on and then swapping hands and doing the other side. And it's really, but it can be physical. It can be just sitting still, laying down at night, trying to get yourself to calm before bed, or in a bath, but it can be really physical. Yeah.
Beautiful.
There's no
time getting on. No, perfect, and that's something that's really important. It's end of the day. Open a door. You never know what you're going to find behind it. It might fit. If it doesn't, you can always close it. But So we're getting on. It's at the 55-minute mark, and that happens pretty quickly as always. I would like to finish with everybody's one little bit, as I always do. And it's going to be around meditation tonight. If you had one bit of advice or one little hack as to where you can go and find out about meditation or what you can try, what would that be? I'm going to start with Omji, please.
Oh, really?
Yep.
My advice is a little bit of advice. Just if you're really that keen, you can get yourself on the mat. The hardest part is getting on the pillow to start. Yeah, if you're keen to do some sort of meditation or whatever, don't expect to do 20 minutes a day. Maybe 5 minutes a day is okay, or 3 minutes a day, and not every day. Maybe 3 days a week's okay to start. Because most people hear that you want to do meditation for 20 minutes a day for every day of your life, and you think, and there's so much pressure that we bring on ourselves. Be realistic and do what you do, whether your meditation's walking the dog or counting your footsteps or being of service to people, just more awareness around going easy on yourself.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the opportunity for tonight.
Don't worry, if I could have, I would have got you to do a mantra, but I didn't prep you for that, and I'm not going to put that on you. Or maybe I will. Joe, your one little bit of advice.
Just start. And YouTube, download an app. I've got 3 apps on my phone that help me go through meditations, and I'm always buying them off of iTunes. Just start. Don't make a big thing out of it. Just do it. It's addictive.
Beautiful. Thank you. Kylie.
Forgive yourself. Take it easy. Do a few minutes. If you do 3 minutes and your mind went off 5 times, go, "Ooh, look at that! I noticed it went off 5 times." Pat yourself on the back. Well done. Travel easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And like any new habit, you're just training your brain to do something new.
Yeah.
So just take it easy on yourself and pat yourself on the back when you do it, because the benefits are there. You can do it every day. But even if it's 5 minutes a day.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm hearing bits and pieces. My internet connection's great. I'm actually, as we're doing this, I'm watching my temporary carport that I put over my caravan fly off. It's an interesting. The weather here is pretty good. So apologies for that. I want to thank everyone. Look, I don't think it's much rescuing. I think it's in pieces. But I'll find myself in a nice meditative state as I'm taking it down very slowly, concentrating on it, which would be quite funny. So,
I'll share a meditation, Scott. I'll share a meditation on the yoga on my yoga YouTube channel, and I'll put it under the comments of the Facebook page.
Awesome, thank you. Can you put up your mantra too under the comments? One of the mantras in the morning.
You want a link for the morning one or something?
Yeah, I do, because it's pretty powerful. I really enjoy it. So, I want to thank everybody. Joe, in particular, first time on the panels. Thank you so much, and it's nice to know you're nice and warm over there while we're freezing here. But give it 6 months, and we'll have a different conversation. But honestly, thank you very much, Kylie. Again, thank you. Omji, thank you so much. And look, Nick, we'll be back again next week. I look forward to next week's conversation. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. All right. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.